In the wake of special counsel Robert Hur's brutal report about President Biden, it seems all the talk has centered around the president's age, right? Practically everyone in the media is talking about whether he's too old to run. And many in the left-leaning media are fixated on the number itself, 81, as if that number is the reason why so many voters are concerned. But what Democrats need to come to terms with is the fact that President Biden is 81 has little to do with why this has become such an issue. After all, former President Trump is 77. It's not about the number. It's about the fact that every time the president comes out in public, it seems like he could be one step away from falling or from missing something. It's about the fact that he seems to forget things, repeated gaffes in a way that just isn't comparable with former President Trump's gaffes. It's the behavior that voters seem to be concerned about, not the number. That's not me making a judgment at all about whether it ought to be a significant factor. It's just a reality check. And the special counsel's report reinforced that perception. He mentioned the president's memory 9 times and twice referred to him as, quote, an elderly man with a poor memory, and even took a few personal, seeming gratuitous jabs at President Biden to underscore his points. Quote, he did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended. If it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president? Forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began. 2009, am I still vice president? He did not remember, even within several years, when his son Beau died. Now, it is true that many of the references did not have anything to do with the case, which was about his handling of classified documents. You can understand why Biden and his team were upset. But however excessive these jabs at the president might have been, they reflect a reality that Democrats don't seem to want to deal with. And it's only going to get worse. Sunday on MSNBC, former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki tried to spin this as an issue simply about age.
Let's not forget who 81-year-old Joe Biden is running against. 77-year-old, not a sprite, Donald Trump. Whoever you may wish was running, it is time to settle into the fact that there will be 2 baby boomers competing for the White House in November.
And that's the reflective counter, right, from anyone defending Joe Biden. They want you to believe it's simply a question of 81 versus 77. They say, well, Biden's only 4 years older than Trump. That's undoubtedly true. But Biden seems many more years than that older. Again, that's not a statement or commentary about who people should vote for, but a reality of what voters are thinking, right? New ABC News Washington Post poll out yesterday shows that while a majority of Americans think both men are too old to be president, 27% more say only Biden is too old, not Trump. And yet many in the left-leaning media want to try to make it just about the number. So much so that in some cases, they're even trying to round down.
If someone says you're too far left, you can tack to the center. The man is 80 years old.
He rides a bike.
He is the age he is, and so it's a very useful political attack for that reason.
Let's say, yes, I'm 81 years old. But you know what? The other guy's got 91 counts that he's indicted with. Yes, I'm 81 years old. And that's 81 years of wisdom, of compassion, of lived experience.
The media loves this story like nothing but the emails. Donald Trump is old. So is Joe Biden. They're both the same age statistically. 77 and 80, round it up. They're the same age.
Yeah, if you round up for Trump and you round down for Biden, you divide by 3 and you carry the 4, there you go, it's the same thing, right? I mean, it's astounding the lengths to which the left-leaning media is going to try to ignore this very obvious issue. Back in May of 2023, ABC and Washington Post, same poll, 68% of Americans said Biden's too old for another term. Number went up, September 2023 to 74%. Now, just a few months later, up to 86% now believe he's too old. There are not many subjects these days about which 86% of Americans agree. The president's second-term age didn't change in that time. If elected to a second term, he'll be 82 when it starts, he'll be 86 when it ends. the fact remained constant each time that poll question was asked over the past 8 months. What changed was that in these last 8 months, Americans have been seeing a whole lot more of this.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit.
The beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes.
Look, I'm not trying to play Fox News here by highlighting the president's gaffes. I'm not saying the fact that Joe Biden has had trouble in public events should matter more than his policies when it comes to president. Many on the left will say this weekend Donald Trump basically invited Russia to attack our NATO allies who don't pay up. And you're talking about Joe Biden's age? No. I'm talking about voter sentiment. That it's becoming increasingly clear that many independents in particular may not vote for Biden because of how old and sometimes out of it he seems. President Biden may be the only major Democrat, apart from Kamala Harris, who could lose to Donald Trump. And Democrats just want to deflect. Biden's greatest obstacle to victory this fall may not be Donald Trump, it may be Father Time. And you know, Father Time, he's undefeated. So the question becomes, do Democrats have a plan B? Ought they have a plan B? You tell me.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.